Welcome to our first session of Courage to Feel Again. And in this whole series, we will be starting each class with identifying our current experience, our current emotion, as well as the sensation that is paired with it, so to speak. So if you haven't already, you might notice that in the area below the video in your online platform, there is a graph of emotions and sensations. And so if you find yourself at any point struggling with words, trying to find words to describe what you're feeling, or just aren't quite sure what it is that you are feeling, at any point you can pause this video and take a look at it, see if it provides anything that feels like it fits, so that you have words to help you identify. So with that being said, I'd like to start our practice today with just a little bit of grounding, and then we'll go into noticing how we feel, noticing what's present for us as we move into our time of asana, our movement practice for the day. So if you'd like, you could join me in a seated shape or any shape that works for you. That might mean sitting on a bolster, or I'm sitting on a blanket. You could sit with your legs outstretched. You could choose to lie down. It really is your choice, as is everything in this class. And whenever you feel settled, I'll meet you here. And then of course, blocks might be helpful, blankets might be helpful, just having a few things that you think you might need. All right. Whenever you arrive in the shape of your choice, before we dive into our emotions, before we dive into anything internal, let's start with the very external, outside base layer, which is our skin. Perhaps noticing the temperature of your skin. You might become aware of your clothing touching your skin. And then taking, with your mind's eye, an outline of your body, just the external outline, noticing the shape you're making. Making any adjustments that you might need to make so that you can feel a bit more supported. And then diving in a little bit deeper, let's tune into our breath. You don't have to change your breath. You don't have to breathe differently. Just simply rest your awareness on your natural inhales and exhales for the next 3 rounds of breath. After your last exhale, you might start to ask yourself, what am I feeling in this moment? How is your heart feeling? What kind of emotions are present for you? And usually there's more than one, but typically there's one that is especially present, 1 or 2. And if so, could you name those emotions? Identifying them with words. knowing that you don't have to take it any further in this moment. You can just simply acknowledge them by naming them. And then noticing where in your body you feel that emotion. How is your body responding to this emotion? Is there a particular place or a sensation that you might be feeling? Maybe it's in your shoulders or your jaw. Maybe it's a sensation of nausea in your stomach. Or maybe it's something else entirely. Where are you feeling this emotion in your body? And then, what does this sensation make you want to do? What kind of response do you physically want to make once you now notice this sensation? Is it to maybe hold yourself or rock? Or maybe it's to move your shoulders? Maybe it's to take a deep breath in. What is it? Let's take the next 4 rounds of breath, 4 to 5, just responding to this sensation. What I'm feeling right now is inviting me to hold myself and simply rock. So that's what I'm going to do. That's my response to what I'm feeling. And yours might be different. 2 more breaths. After your second breath, if you do not feel ready to move on from this place, you don't have to. But if you are, I invite you to come back to center. And I'd like to read to you a passage by Octavia, Raheem. When you examine your darkness, you see how much light is hidden behind it. You can't walk around it, only through. Going through creates friction. That friction rubs you until there is a whisper of shine. Avoiding your darkness dulls your light and silences the hum of your glow. In this class today, I want to acknowledge your courage. I want to acknowledge and celebrate the fact that you are here, feeling your emotions, feeling your body, because sometimes it can be scary. And I want you to know that I'm right here with you and that you have absolute power and choice every step of the way. And at any time you need to pause this class, take a break, and come back to it, you absolutely can. There's no timetable, there's no rush, and you can move at your own pace. If you'd like to join me, you could start to inhale, roll your shoulders up toward your ears. Exhale, maybe drop them behind the back. Taking a few more movements just like this, maybe even one at a time. And allowing your shoulders to settle down away from your ears whenever you feel complete. You could take your hands in front of you, interlace your fingers, breathing in. And then as you exhale, you could flip your palms away from you and stretch your arms out. Inhale, maybe you reach your arms up overhead or leave them where they're at. You choose. And then exhale to release your fingers. You might bring one hand down to the floor, to the side of you, reaching your top arm over in a side stretch. With your next breath in, or when you decide to, you could inhale, reach both arms up. Exhale. Option to take the other side. With your next inhale, I'll meet you right back up at center. And exhale to lower the hands down. I'm going to take that 2 more times. You could join me if you want. Inhale, interlacing the fingers. Exhale, press it away. Inhale to reach on up. Exhale to release. One hand can find its way down to the floor as you reach your other arm up. Switching sides whenever you're ready to. I'll meet you at center whenever you're ready. Exhale, arms can release down. One more time. Inhale, interlace the fingers. Exhale, press. Inhale, lift. Exhale, side stretch if you want to take it. Switching sides when you're ready. Whenever you make your way back to center, I'll meet you here. Pausing for just a breath or two to notice any changes in sensation in your body just from those few movements. If you'd like to join me in a tabletop, I'll meet you there. Option to have a blanket underneath your knees for a little bit of support. And you might place your knees somewhere underneath your hips. Hands can be roughly underneath your shoulders or anywhere it feels welcome. And if you'd like to stretch out your legs one at a time, you can, maybe taking a few ankle rolls. And then if you'd like to join me for some cat-cows, you could start by finding center. And then with an inhale, you might begin to drape your spine down toward your mat as you take your gaze forward. Your tailbone might even flip up toward the ceiling. With your exhale, you could start to round your spine up toward the ceiling. This time, maybe your tailbone and your chin tuck in toward one another. You might continue in this rhythmic movement, inhaling and exhaling. Or if there's any organic movement that you prefer here, you are more than welcome to add it in. Maybe stretching through your side body, taking a few hip circles, anything goes. I'll be here for the next 2 rounds of breath. All right, you could continue moving here, or you could bring your knees together. And then keeping your left knee where it's at, you could extend your right leg and then cross it behind your left knee. And then allowing your ankles, your feet, to kind of widen, maybe heading on out to the edges of your mat. So you're creating like a V pattern with your shins. And then you could take some cat-cows here, kind of in this twisted tabletop, if you will. So inhaling, draping your spine down. Exhaling, curling up. Noticing how just this slight variation could feel really different in your body. A couple more on this side. Taking your time. This is your practice, there's no rush. And we'll start to unravel. So extending your right leg, bringing both knees back together on the mat, and then extending your left leg, crossing it behind your right, adjusting your legs and your shins and your feet as needed, and then finding your cat-cow. If you choose to take this twisted tabletop. Couple more at your own pace. Last one. This shape that we're doing right now with our legs is preparing our body for where we're going to go later in class. I'll meet you back at center. And if you're ready, you can start to unravel your legs. If you need to stretch them out, go ahead. And here, you might find a child's pose. So your knees might find their way as wide as your mat, or maybe just a little bit wider than hip distance as your toes touch behind you. You could send your hips back toward your heels. They don't have to touch, but they might. And then you have a couple options. You could walk your hands out, rest your forehead on the floor, or if having your gaze down just is not working for you today, that's all right. You could draw your elbows back, kind of propping your upper body up so that you can keep your gaze lifted. So whatever works for you. I'm pausing here in this tabletop for just a few breaths. Just knowing that this shape is available to you at all times, at any time, for any reason, no permission needed. Inhale, checking in with your body. You can stay here as long as you like, or you could begin to shift yourself forward, back into tabletop. And here we have the choice to take a downward facing dog. So tucking our toes, inhale, lifting the hips up. I like to keep my knees bent at first, and stretching back through the arms, through the shoulders. Here, before you straighten out your legs, notice if it might feel welcome to take your feet as wide as your mat. Sometimes a little bit of extra space just feels really welcome. So I'm going to do that today, but you could start to release one heel down toward the floor. So one leg straightens and one leg is bent. And then maybe switch it out. We'll be here for another 4 rounds of breath. Just feeling into our bodies, noticing what kind of sensation is present for you here. I'm definitely feeling my hamstrings right now, but for you, it might be somewhere else. All right, 2 more breaths. And after your last breath, you might allow both heels to float down toward the mat. And again, the heels might not touch, and that's okay. They don't have to.
but just maybe send them in that direction, and then bending your knees again, walking your hands back. I'll meet you in a forward fold at the back of your mat. Whenever you get there, there's no rush. Pausing here for a second. With your next inhale, maybe you take a halfway lift. So hands can come to your shins, your quads, or fingertips to the floor, whatever's available. As we inhale, lengthen through our spine, and then exhale to fold right back down. Rooting your feet into the floor. If you're ready to come up, you could bend your knees. Inhale, reach and press. Exhale. Hands could come down to heart center. Take a second here. If your blood pressure needs a moment to regulate, maybe keep your eyes open if you're feeling a little dizzy. Can you tune into the sensation of your feet planted on the floor, maybe even adjusting your stance if needed? You could spread out your toes. And I invite you to take another 3 half sun salutations with me. I'm going to move my blanket out of the way because we don't need it just yet. Well, you might actually, so keep it close by just in case. But first, let's take another 2 or 3 sun salutations, probably 3. And inhaling, reaching your arms up if you want to join me. Exhale to take a forward fold. Inhale for your halfway lift. Whenever you get there, you can move at a different pace than me. And exhale to fold right back down. Inhale to press your feet into the floor and rise. Exhale to fold right back down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to fold. One more round. Inhale to rise. Exhale to fold. Finding your halfway lift when you are ready for it. And folding when you are ready for it. Rising with your inhale. Exhale, hands could come down to heart center. Let's take a pause. How's your breath? How's it moving in your body? What does it feel like? Maybe it's different than when you first started. Okay, if you're ready to move on, we have a couple options. Option 1 is to step either of your feet forward. I'm going to start with my left side. And then allow your back foot to come up onto the ball of your foot / toes. And then, so we're coming into a high crescent. A lot of individuals will keep their back leg straight, and it's not wrong. It's not bad. There's nothing good or bad about it. But if you're feeling tight, like I am, it might actually create more space in your body to bend your back knee. Ooh. And notice how that changes the position of your hips and your lower back. So here's option 1. Option 2, if a high crescent lunge is just not where you're at today, that's all right. Slowly lower your back knee to the floor. untuck your toes and find a low lunge. And this is where you might want the blanket if you are choosing the low lunge, okay? All right, so choosing the one that works for you. And then your choice of hand placement, you could inhale, reach your arms up. Or maybe exhale and bend the elbows for cactus. Or maybe even just simply place your hands on your hips. You choose. And then I'd like to take just a little bit of movement here. So you could lower your knee to the mat and then press it up. Lower down, press it up. Last one. If you want it, lower down, press it up. All right. Hands can come down to the mat. If you are in low lunge, you might simply move your left knee back to reach the floor so that you come into like a side plank. So you could swing your left ankle out like a kickstand. Option to reach your right arm up, maybe enter into a nice supported side plank. Or if you are in crescent lunge, you could take the side plank, or you could take your left foot, your front foot, and kick it out to the side. And then for fallen triangle, press your arm up, reach up strongly. This is gonna take a lot of work from your obliques. Whatever you want to do with your body, will be here for one more breath. And releasing your hand back down to the ground, drawing your leg in. Knees can come down to the mat for a second. Your choice, child's pose, or tuck your toes, lift the hips for down dog. Wherever you're at, 4 breaths here. After your last breath, if you are in child's pose, you might shift forward into tabletop. If you are in down dog, you could start to walk your hands back. If you're in tabletop, you could find your way to the back of your mat whenever you want to. And I'll meet you in a forward fold. With your next inhale, or when you decide to, you could find a halfway lift. And an exhale to let it go. Inhale to rise in your own timing. Exhale, hands can come down. And starting with your right leg. So you might shift your weight into your left side. If you need a little bit of support for balance here, you could hold onto the wall or a chair or something nearby. As we shift our weight over into our left foot, start to draw our right foot back, reaching back for our ankle, our foot, coming into a nice quad stretch here. Now, if you need a bit more space than this, you could take a towel or a strap, wrap it around your right ankle, and hold onto the strap. And I invite you to be here for another 3 rounds of breath, inhales and exhales. One more. Releasing when you're ready. If your standing leg is feeling a little bit tired, you could give it a shake out. And then we'll take all of this on the other side. So inhaling,
Reaching up if you're ready to take the other side. Exhale.
A fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. And then exhale to let it go. All right. Inhale to press it all up. I'll meet you back at standing whenever you get here. And this time, you might step your right foot forward, or whichever one you didn't do last time. Option 1 is high crescent lunge. Option 2 is to lower your back knee to the ground and find a low lunge. Your choice. Your choice of hand placement. Maybe you choose something different than last time. Maybe it's the same thing. And you could choose to stay right here at center, or if you'd like, you could lower your back knee to the floor, press it up. Maybe sinking down. Exhale, inhale to reach up. Last one. Exhale, lower. Inhale, reach. Hands can come down to your mat if you're ready. Your choice of a side plank, so bringing your front knee to your mat, supported side plank, or take your right foot, kick it out to the side, and then maybe you allow your left arm to reach up for fallen triangle. Side plank or fallen triangle, but whatever you choose, I invite you to be here for another breath in and out. If you're ready to, you could release your hand back down to the mat. Bringing your leg back behind you, option for child's pose, or scoot yourself on back for down dog. 3 or 4 breaths here. If and when you're ready, you might start to walk your hands back toward your feet. And I'll meet you in a forward fold at the back of your mat. Take your time, there's no rush. With your next inhale, you might choose to take a halfway lift. Finding your forward fold with your out breath. And I'll meet you standing with your breath in and an exhale to lower your hands. Shifting your weight into your right foot, having any support that you might need here, so wall, strap, chair, anything, and then taking your left ankle, swimming it on back, finding, ooh, I'm a little wobbly today, that's okay. If you fall out of it, you can come right back in. Let's take about 4 breaths here. It definitely helps with balance to find an unmoving spot ahead of you and just focus your eyes on that. It is called a dristi, and it allows you to improve your balance by just keeping your eyes steady on a spot. 1 more breath. Releasing when you're complete. Maybe giving your standing leg a little shake. Last half sun salutation here. Breathing in and reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. And now halfway lift. Exhale to fold when you're ready for it. All right, this time we'll walk our hands forward if you're done with your forward fold, bringing our knees to the mat and settling on back for a child's pose. Any child's pose of your choice here. 5 full breaths. Taking these last 2 breaths to acknowledge your journey, wherever you're at in your healing, wherever you're at in this process. Can you just acknowledge how far you've come? How much work it's taken? How much courage it's taken? It really does require so much courage to look instead of turn away. So I celebrate you. I celebrate you because I know exactly what that's like. I know exactly what it requires. And you're doing it. You're doing a great job. If you're ready to move out of child's pose, you could start to lift your head, walk your hands back. And if you don't already have a blanket down on your mat, it might be helpful to grab one. We're gonna move into Gomukhasana pose, also known as cow face pose, and we're gonna have a lot of different options. If your hips are feeling tight still, it would be helpful to have a block or a folded blanket or maybe 2 blankets nearby in case you need them, in case you need their support. So have a few options nearby. And then taking yourself into a tabletop, we're gonna revisit that twisted tabletop that we did at the beginning of class. So bringing your knees together and then extending your right leg out and folding back behind your left leg. So it's almost like you're sitting cross-legged in a chair. And then notice where your ankles are. You're gonna need some space. So if they're like really narrow behind you, you might allow them to find the opposite edges of your mat. And then here you could start to just simply rock the hips back and then rock forward, taking just a few movements to kind of let your body know, hey, this is where we're going. Noticing how your body might be responding to this shape. All right, you could stay right here. If this rocking motion is working for you, great. You can be here for as long as you want. But if you're curious to allow your hips to sit back, you might start with a blanket or a block. It really doesn't matter which one. I'm just gonna start with a block because it's easier to move. And sit it right back behind you. And then allow your hips to head on back. And you might even need to take your muscles and like move them a little bit. So like my calf muscle was like definitely kind of like jammed up. So I moved my calf and then adjusting the block so that you can sit back and notice, okay, how does this feel? If the block feels too high, but you still want some support, you could switch it out for your blanket. Or you could remove it entirely, set it to the side, as we find cow face pose, Gomukhasana here. So I know that this shape can be very intense. This is another big hip opener. So that is why we have our props. That is why if being in this shape right here with your hips on the floor is just very overwhelming and it's beyond your window of tolerance, you can always go back to that rocking motion from the tabletop shape. All right, let's settle in. I invite you to be here for another 7 to 8 rounds of breath. However, you always reserve the choice to stay or go. So you can stay longer or you can leave sooner. This is your practice, your body. If your hips are on the floor and it feels like you have some extra space that you'd like to explore, you could start to lean over your knees, maybe bringing your hands to the floor in front of you. And I can't go very far. This is as much space as I have, but some individuals might even fold further. So that's always a choice. Last breath or two. All right. If you want to take your hands back behind you, you could kind of ease off of your legs, allow your legs to unravel, maybe stretch them out. If you're in tabletop shape, you could always just stretch your legs out behind you, one at a time. And then maybe even give your legs a little shake out. And then we'll find it on the other side. All right. So, from tabletop, this time, when we bring our knees to touch, you could extend your left leg and then wrap it around. And again, you might start with just a few rocking motions. This side could feel really different, so let's not assume that this is going to be the same experience as the previous side. It could be not the same. And then if and when you're ready to allow your hips to sit back, either on a block, a blanket, or the floor, you could adjust as needed. This side feels significantly tighter for me, so I'm just gonna be with that sensation. It might be similar for you, or maybe this side's easier. Once you're settled, I invite you to be here for about 8 rounds of breath, or until you decide you don't want to be here anymore. And I'd like to read to you the same passage that we opened class with. When you examine your darkness, you see how much light is hidden behind it. You can't walk around it, only through. Going through creates friction. That friction rubs you until there is a whisper of shine. Avoiding your darkness dulls your light and silences the hum of your glow.
Sometimes feeling our emotions and feeling our bodies can be a lot. And it is a lot. It is a lot. But you're doing it. And it's okay to take baby steps. It's okay to just feel a little bit at a time and then take a break. If you're ready to come out of this shape, you might send your hands back behind you, take some of that weight off of your legs, give yourself a stretch. And then we'll start to move into our time of rest, Shavasana. So if you want to lie down, either on your back, your side, your stomach, if you prefer to stay seated, if you want to take your legs up the wall, it's whatever you want to do. There's no right or wrong. And I will meet you wherever you want to be for this time of rest. I'm going to choose to stay seated because that feels supportive for my body today. However, we will be here for the next 5 minutes or so. So if being seated is not supportive for your body and your body would actually appreciate a deeper rest of like really letting go and sinking into the floor, please allow yourself to find any other shape that allows you to rest the way that you need to rest today. And once you get set up, once you arrive with any and all props that you might need, I invite you to take a full exhale out. And then breathe in. And a big exhale. Settling into your time of rest. Knowing that there is nothing else left to do. There's no other tasks or agenda. Just simply noticing how you feel in this moment. And then we'll be here for another 4 or 5 minutes. And I'll be quiet for that time. But just know I'm still right here with you. And I'll let you know when that time is complete. If you do not feel complete in this time of rest yet, please stay here for as long as you want. Or if you are ready to begin adding some small movements back into your body, you can take your time doing so. If you're lying on your mat, you might start to roll over to one side, moving slowly. There's no rush. And then pressing yourself up when you're ready to. And I'll meet you in any seated shape. Option to bring your hands to heart center. And if you'd like to join me for one collective breath in together, you could start by exhaling all of your air out. And we'll breathe in. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions about this class or the emotion sensations chart, whatever comes up for you, please don't hesitate to send me an email, and I will see you next time. My hope for you is that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Thanks.